The golden boy with rotten teeth. People thought James Whitmore had it all. Born into the prestigious Whitmore family in Surrey, he was the golden boy of Ashcroft Academy, charming, intelligent, always 2 steps ahead. But when I first met him at the school library, I didn't see the prince they all adored. I saw a liar dressed in silk. I was the new girl Evelyn Hart. Quiet, observant, the kind no one noticed unless they needed homework answers. But James noticed me. Or rather, he noticed what I knew. He slid beside me, flashing his award-winning smile. "You're reading Dante's Inferno for fun?" he asked, mock admiration in his voice. I nodded. "It's about betrayal and punishment," I replied. "Fitting, isn't it?" That was how it began. Within weeks, James and I were inseparable. To everyone else, we looked like the perfect pair, brains and beauty, darkness and light. But behind closed doors, James was something else. Manipulative. Controlling. Addicted to the power he held over people, including me. He told me secrets about teachers, students, even his own family. He made me feel chosen. Special. But I wasn't the first girl he played like a violin. He kept trophies, photos, texts, recordings. I found them accidentally. Or maybe he wanted me to. Either way, it broke something in me. The final straw was when he turned my own secrets against me, twisting truths into poison and feeding them to the school's rumor mill. He humiliated me. Publicly. Strategically. As if I were just another name on his list of conquests. But James Whitmore made one fatal mistake. He underestimated me. I disappeared for a month. No texts. No school. Just silence. He thought he'd broken me. But when I returned to Ashcroft, I wasn't Evelyn the quiet girl anymore. I was Evelyn, the girl who had spent every hour planning how to destroy a king without ever lifting a sword. And this time, I would be the one smiling. The return of a nobody. The whispers began the moment I stepped back through Ashcroft's iron gates. "Is that Evelyn Hart?" I thought she transferred. "She looks different." They were right. I had changed. Gone were the soft cardigans and shy glances. My uniform was perfectly pressed, my gaze steady. I walked like someone who had nothing left to lose, but everything to gain. James saw me during the lunch break. His smile faltered for a second, barely noticeable, but I saw it. The confusion. The worry. Good. Let him wonder. He approached with his usual arrogance, flanked by his loyal satellites. "Evelyn, thought you'd vanished into thin air." I tilted my head, feigning innocence. "And miss all this fun? Never." He chuckled, but his eyes scanned my face for clues. I gave him none. That afternoon, I dropped my first breadcrumb. During literature class, we were asked to analyze Macbeth's descent into madness. When it was my turn to speak, I said, "True tragedy isn't in the fall itself, but in the illusion of control right before the fall. That moment where the king still thinks he's untouchable." I didn't look at James. I didn't have to. The class fell silent. Mr. Alden nodded in approval. But I felt James's stare burning into me. Later that day, I slipped a letter into his locker. No name. No signature. Just a line from Inferno. The darkest places in hell are reserved for those who maintain their neutrality in times of moral crisis. He'd used that quote on me once, when manipulating me into helping him ruin another student's reputation. Now it was mine. That night, I created a burner account and posted an anonymous tip on the school's confessions forum. "Ashcroft's golden boy isn't as polished as he looks. Watch closely. The cracks are already showing." No names. No proof. Just suggestion. Just enough to plant doubt. James Whitmore ruled with secrets. I would rule with silence and timing. Let the game begin. Cracks in the crown. James didn't sleep well. I could see it in the way he rubbed his temples during chemistry, in the caffeine-stained paper cup trembling in his hand. He was used to control. Precision. Now something invisible had entered his world, whispering doubt into his perfect little kingdom. I watched from across the lab as he dropped his pen. Uncharacteristic. Sloppy. He looked up and caught me staring. I smiled. At lunch, I moved in silence, choosing the seat nearest the window, directly in his line of sight. That's when I began phase 2. Leverage. You see, James never operated alone. His power wasn't just in his charm or his grades, it was in the people he controlled. And the one closest to him? Amelia Grant. Head cheerleader. Perfect GPA. Ashcroft's golden girl. And the one person James couldn't afford to lose. So I found her. "Hi, Amelia," I said, catching her as she left the library. She blinked, surprised. "Evelyn, right? You're back." I nodded. "Just thought I'd say thanks." "For what?" I smiled kindly. "For covering up James's little secret last spring. You know, the senior prank that nearly got him expelled." Her face paled. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course not," I said, pulling a flash drive from my pocket and gently placing it in her palm. "But if you ever forget, this might help jog your memory." I walked away before she could speak. She'd watch it. And once she did, she'd remember how quickly her reputation could turn to ash. James liked having dirt on people. But I had dirt too, and I wasn't afraid to use it. That night, another anonymous post went live. "Not everyone in the Ashcroft elite is as loyal as they seem. Even queens turn on their kings when the throne starts shaking." James saw it. I knew he did. The next morning he cornered me by the lockers. "What are you doing?" I looked at him, calm and measured. "You're going to have to be more specific." "You're playing with fire, Evelyn." I leaned in just enough for only him to hear. "Good," I whispered. "Because I don't burn, I watch others do." And then I walked away. Let him sweat. The crown was already slipping. The beginning of isolation. People didn't notice the fall at first. That's the trick with power. When you wear it long enough, people assume it's part of your skin. But I noticed. The way James's jokes landed a little flatter at lunch. The way his entourage, those perfect plastic friends, laughed a beat too late. He was slipping, and Ashcroft smelled weakness like blood in the water. All I had to do was give them a nudge. So I started with Ethan Cross, his childhood friend, football co-captain, and the only person who'd seen James cry after losing student body president in sophomore year. I found Ethan smoking behind the auditorium. He didn't even look surprised to see me. "You here to blackmail me too?" he asked dryly. I shrugged. "Only if you give me something worth blackmailing." He laughed once. Then the silence grew long. "What do you want, Evelyn?" "Just honesty." "Since when has anyone in this school cared about honesty?" I took out my phone, tapped on a photo. A screenshot of James's group chat. The one where Ethan's name had been replaced with a clown emoji. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. He stared. "That's not real." "Isn't it?" He didn't answer. Just dropped his cigarette, crushed it, and walked away. Step by step. At school, people were watching me now. Not as the return girl, but as something more dangerous. Rumors flew. She dated someone at her old school who went missing. No, she's rich. Like, trust fund rich. I heard she got expelled from her last school for hacking the grades. I didn't confirm anything. I didn't deny it either. Mystery was power. And I was becoming untouchable. James, on the other hand, was unraveling. By Friday, Amelia stopped sitting with him at lunch. Ethan was missing from football practice. And someone had graffitied the locker room with a single message. "A king without a kingdom is just a boy in a crown." I passed James in the hall. He looked at me like he finally saw what I was. Not just a girl who came back, but a threat. And the worst part? He had no idea what I'd do next. Ghosts don't stay buried. They say revenge is cold, but mine was burning hot. And yet, beneath every win, every crack in James's perfect world, something else stirred. Something I didn't plan for. Regret. It crept in slowly like smoke under a door. That Friday night, Ashcroft's annual masquerade took place in the headmaster's garden. Masks, lies, and music that vibrated with old money and young secrets. I wore black silk and a silver mask. No one recognized me except one. "Evelyn," a voice behind me said, low and careful. I turned. Sebastian Thorne. Not James's lackey. Not Amelia's boyfriend. Just Sebastian. The only one who looked me in the eye and didn't flinch. "I knew it was you," he said. I smiled. "Is that a good thing?" "I don't know yet." We stood in silence for a beat too long. Then he asked, "Why are you really here?" "Justice." That's a pretty word for a dirty motive. That stung more than I expected. I'm not like James, I said quietly. No, he agreed. You're smarter. Colder. He wasn't wrong. But then he added something unexpected. And lonelier. I wanted to hate him for saying that. But he was right. Revenge was a solitary path, paved with broken glass and silent rooms. The music shifted into something slower. Couples danced like shadows under the fairy lights. Sebastian didn't ask, but he offered his hand. I took it. Just for a moment I let go of the anger. Let the mask slip. But peace doesn't last in places like Ashcroft. Because just as the clock struck midnight, James entered. His eyes locked onto mine from across the crowd. He didn't see a masked girl in black. He saw the storm he created. And he was terrified. Good. Because this was only the beginning. The letter I never meant to read. The next morning Ashcroft felt quieter. Like the air was holding its breath. James hadn't confronted me at the masquerade. He simply disappeared. Coward. But I knew him better than anyone. Silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. Still something else occupied my mind. Or someone else. Sebastian. His words stayed with me like a bruise beneath skin. Not visible. But felt. Lonelier. Was he wrong? I hadn't let anyone in since everything fell apart. Since that night. That afternoon, I returned to my dorm and found an envelope slid under my door. No name. Just a wax seal broken. Inside. A letter in handwriting I hadn't seen in over a year. My sister's. Evelyn, if you're reading this, then everything went wrong. I know you're angry. I would be too. But please don't let this destroy you. James took something from us, but don't let him take you too. I sat on the edge of my bed, the paper trembling in my hand. She'd written it before the accident. Before the lies. Before the silence swallowed her whole. Tears welled in my eyes before I could stop them. This wasn't part of the plan. I wasn't supposed to feel. I was supposed to win. Later that evening I walked through Ashcroft's library like a ghost, the letter still folded in my pocket, close to my skin. Maybe too close. That's when I heard it. Looking for something? James. He leaned against a bookshelf like he owned the place. Maybe he did. I know what you're doing, he said, voice low, smug. Oh. I raised a brow. Please enlighten me. He stepped closer. You think you're smarter than me. But this place is built on secrets. I own more than you know. I smiled. Because now I wasn't the only one playing with fire. I'm not here to outsmart you, James, I said. I'm here to ruin you. His smirk faltered just slightly. And I walked away before he could see the doubt in my eyes. Because for the first time, I wasn't sure who I was really fighting for. He wasn't supposed to matter. Ashcroft always felt like a chessboard. Polished. Precise. Predictable. But suddenly my pieces were slipping. After James cornered me in the library, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was getting closer to the truth. Or worse, had already known it. I needed control back. Fast. I avoided Sebastian the next day. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to. He made things cloudy. Made me question why I started all this in the first place. But fate has a twisted sense of humor. Because just as I slipped into the music hall to steal Headmaster Warwick's master key, don't ask how I knew where he kept it, there he was. Sebastian. Holding a violin. Tuning it with maddening calm. He didn't even look up. You missed lit class, he said. I froze. So. Professor Allensworth cried. Again. Something about you being the only student she ever believed in. He finally looked at me, eyes sharp. Are you trying to break hearts on purpose now? I hated that he could joke. I hated that I wanted to laugh. I'm busy, I muttered, brushing past him. He caught my wrist. Not rough, but enough. Evelyn, he said, and my name sounded softer in his mouth than it ever had in mine. You can push everyone away, but eventually, you'll have nowhere left to run. I looked him in the eye. Maybe that's the point. He let go. And I left. Back in my dorm I stared at the master key, cold and silver in my hand. One step closer to what I needed. Access to the school's restricted archives. The truth about what James did. The lies my sister died protecting. But all I could think about was Sebastian's hand on my wrist. His voice. and how it made me feel like someone worth saving, which was not part of the plan. I wasn't supposed to feel anything, and he wasn't supposed to matter. My sister didn't die for this. Ashcroft's restricted archives smelled like old dust and broken promises. The key worked. Too easily. I slipped inside just past midnight, heart hammering like a guilty drumbeat. The silence was alive, thick with ghosts of secrets long buried. I had 20 minutes before campus security made their rounds. Shelf after shelf, file after file. But then I found it. Incident report. Isabella Hart. My sister. My fingers trembled as I flipped through it. Pages of redacted lines, cold words typed without soul. Student discovered unresponsive. Apparent fall from East Tower window. No witnesses. Ruled accidental. I felt sick. I knew she didn't fall. She was pushed. And then, at the back of the file, something that didn't belong. A folded letter. Handwritten. The edges frayed like it had been read too many times. I opened it. Izzy, if you go through with this, you're signing your own death warrant. He won't let you ruin him. He can't afford the truth. S. My breath caught. S? Sebastian? No, that was impossible. He would have been a first year then. Unless S wasn't Sebastian at all. Unless it was someone else who knew exactly what James had done, and tried to stop her. I pocketed the letter just as the lights flickered. Someone else was there. I ducked behind a row of records. Footsteps. Slow. Intentional. Not security. I held my breath. A shadow moved across the filing cabinets. Closer. Then he spoke. I warned her, Evelyn. Just like I'm warning you. James. He was smiling, voice soft as silk and twice as deadly. You don't want to end up like her. I stepped out from hiding. I'm not scared of you. You should be. He reached into his coat. I flinched. But all he pulled out was a silver cufflink. Izzy's. He dropped it at my feet. You want the truth? He whispered. Come and get it. Then he disappeared into the dark. I stared at the cufflink, heart pounding in my ears. My sister didn't die for this. Ashcroft's restricted archives smelled like old dust and broken promises. The key worked. Too easily. I slipped inside just past midnight, heart hammering like a guilty drumbeat. The silence was alive, thick with ghosts of secrets long buried. I had 20 minutes before campus security made their rounds. Shelf after shelf, file after file. But then I found it. Incident report. Isabella Hart. My sister. My fingers trembled as I flipped through it. Pages of redacted lines, cold words typed without soul. Student discovered unresponsive. Apparent fall from East Tower window. No witnesses. Ruled accidental. I felt sick. I knew she didn't fall. She was pushed. And then, at the back of the file, something that didn't belong. A folded letter. Handwritten. The edges frayed like it had been read too many times. I opened it. Izzy, if you go through with this, you're signing your own death warrant. He won't let you ruin him. He can't afford the truth. S. My breath caught. S? Sebastian? No, that was impossible. He would have been a first year then. Unless S wasn't Sebastian at all. Unless it was someone else who knew exactly what James had done, and tried to stop her. I pocketed the letter just as the lights flickered. Someone else was there. I ducked behind a row of records. Footsteps. Slow. Intentional. Not security. I held my breath. A shadow moved across the filing cabinets. Closer. Then he spoke. I warned her, Evelyn. Just like I'm warning you. James. He was smiling, voice soft as silk and twice as deadly. You don't want to end up like her. I stepped out from hiding. I'm not scared of you. You should be. He reached into his coat. I flinched. But all he pulled out was a silver cufflink. Izzy's. He dropped it at my feet. You want the truth? He whispered. Come and get it. Then he disappeared into the dark. I stared at the cufflink, heart pounding in my ears. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. For Isabella. For me. For every secret Ashcroft thought it could bury. Enemies closer, traitors closer. I didn't go back to my dorm. I couldn't. Not after what James said. Instead, I sat in the old chapel ruins behind the science wing. gripping Izzy's cufflink like it could anchor me to reality. That's when I heard footsteps again. But this time it wasn't James. It was Callum. He sat down beside me like we hadn't just accused each other of murder last week. "You found something," he said quietly. I nodded, holding out the letter. He read it in silence, jaw tightening. "I thought he was done," Callum muttered. "After Isabella, he promised he'd stop." I turned to him slowly. "You knew." "I didn't know he killed her," he said, eyes fierce. "But I knew they were involved. I tried to warn her, but she wouldn't listen." I wanted to scream. At him. At the school. At the whole bloody mess. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I was scared," Callum snapped. "Because James doesn't just ruin people. He erases them." We sat in silence. A soft wind moved through the chapel's broken arches. Then Callum looked me dead in the eyes. "You're not going to survive this alone." "I don't want to survive," I said. "I want to end it." He smiled bitterly. "Then you'll need help. Real help." That's when he handed me a USB drive. "What's this?" "Proof. Not just about Izzy. About everyone he's blackmailed, threatened, used. He's built an empire on fear, Evelyn. Time to burn it down." I stared at the tiny piece of plastic like it held the weight of the world. "I'll need more than this," I whispered. "You'll have it. You're not the only one he's hurt." Callum stood. "Midnight. Archives again. Don't come alone." And then he left, leaving me with a truth that terrified me more than James ever could. I might not be alone anymore. But that didn't mean I was safe. The fall of kings. Midnight came like a warning bell. I stood outside the archives, heart pounding, USB in my pocket, mind racing with every lie I'd uncovered. Callum was already inside. So were two others I didn't expect, Grace and Theo. "I guess this is the rebellion," I said, stepping in. Theo locked the door behind me. "Not a rebellion," he said. "An execution." Callum plugged the USB into the terminal. "Once we hit send, every student, every teacher, every donor will know who James really is." He looked at me. "Are you ready?" "No." But I nodded anyway. He pressed upload. The screen blinked. Then blackout. What the? The lights cut. The terminal died. And from the darkness came a voice. "Well done, Evelyn. You nearly won." "James." The backup generator kicked in just in time to see him step out from the shadows, flanked by two prefects and Headmaster Quinn. "You think you're clever?" James said. "Do you know how many like you I've buried?" Figuratively, of course. Grace lunged at him but was tackled to the floor. "Theo sao Tết?" Chaos erupted. Then James turned to me. "You had potential. A real future. You could have stood beside me." I didn't flinch. "I'd rather burn." He smiled like a wolf. "Then let's burn together." And that's when the second file went off, the real one. The USB hadn't just uploaded to the school server. It had been timed to post across the alumni network, donor forums, and 3 national news sites. James saw it happen in real time, his face going pale as notification after notification popped up on the headmaster's phone. This is illegal," Quinn stammered. "No," I said, stepping forward. "What he did is illegal. What I did is justice." Sirens echoed in the distance. Someone had called the police. For once, it wasn't to cover something up, but to expose everything. James tried to run. Callum tackled him. I watched as they cuffed him, the weight of 100 secrets crashing into the marble floor beneath his feet. It was over. The king had fallen. And I was free. But freedom came with its own crown. And it was heavy as hell.